Hello, Ascension Diaries family. Alexis here again on January 20th, 2018 with your Ascension Weather Report. But before we get started, I just had to meditate for a short amount of time to get this video started because today has been insane. And I have some really incredible news for you all. First things first, I am now going to be attending the Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo on February 9th and 11th. So for those of you who are going, I didn't think I was going to make it this year, but it turns out that, I am going to be there and I'm going to have lots of time. I'm going to be doing a lot of filming. And so if you're there and you see me, I'd love to meet you. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I was there last year, and so I guess this is the first conference like this that I've attended more than 1 year in a row. So becoming a real pro in the community, no big deal, but I'm kidding. But yeah, so that's news number one. News number two is super intense, and I'm just going to center myself and tell you what's happened. So those of you saw the article I posted the other day by Allison Coe about a Hawaiian family that had a member go missing, and this family member continues to visit them, and the conversation was about how he had passed through a portal to another side, perhaps a new earth, maybe just the etheric realm. I'm not sure, but he was given an offer he couldn't refuse to serve humanity, and he did it. I then did a card reading for my first Patreon patron, and her husband also has experienced a portal. He's seen one. And so I was trying to arrange a video to do an interview with her and her husband. And then this wonderful woman, the family member of this man who went missing, reached out to me synchronistically. And she is also available to do this Zoom meeting with us. So today's Saturday, so tomorrow, Sunday, around 1:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we are going to be in a Zoom room together, and I'm going to share the link to the room so you can participate in the comments on the Facebook page Ascension Diaries. We're going to be having a Fireside roundtable paranormal discussion that is being divinely brought together, and I cannot freaking wait, because this is not something I thought was going to be happening so soon and so synchronistically, but that's how things work, and this is the service we do. So extremely excited for that tomorrow. I'm shaking about it, honestly. I feel a very intense, response to this, if you can't see it on my face. And so without further ado, those are my two main announcements. Let us get into the Ascension weather, because there has been some activity today. So I'm just going to scooch up here into this corner, and we're going to look at the Schumann resonance. And Schumann resonance today has gone off. We saw, I think this was the activity we were looking at yesterday. So again, today we had two spikes at two different times. I just loaded this. I'm filming this at 4:06 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And so that's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 hours ago, this went off. And it reached an amplitude of 45, which is about twice as much as it hit last time. A little less than twice as much. Again, with the math thing, just don't even go there. I look at the pretty lines. But yeah, so we had some activity, as you can see here. Again, very uniform. but not as bad as it was this time around. See how very uniform it was? This is a little different, but very, very similar times, and this one as well, very, very uniform. And we actually had a lot more activity with this green line. And I have an interesting relationship with this green line because every time this green line seems to have its own little party, things are kind of changing. It's like that particular day, it tends to be more significant in like life progression, I would say, or even heart. I find it relates a lot to the heart and sort of like relationships. These are theories that I have just by watching. I haven't been keeping too close of an eye on it, but now I'm keeping a video diary. So I'm going to note that there was some interesting activity with the green and the red line. So look at this, it's even overlapping the yellow line. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Watch for that and see if perhaps you've had an interesting progression in your day, in your life path, like I have with this whole interview amazingness that's going to be happening tomorrow and going to the Conscious Life Expo. So there's your activity for the Schumann today. This is what it looks like, more visual. You can see that we are again buzzing in a field of higher activity. And yeah, so please, in the comments below, please mention how you are feeling today. If you notice these times going on, I'd love to hear about it. So let's move on to heart math. And here we go again with this graph. Saudi Arabia still having some very weird mechanical looking activity. Another thing to note is this, which is really cool. We talked about they're having extra activity yesterday. This is updated. Yes, this was yesterday. Okay, so January 19th. So this was yesterday. Still, to note, we're on the 20th. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for okay, so that is New Zealand. I wasn't 100% sure. So New Zealand is getting some extra activity going on. So any of my New Zealanders out there, I didn't see any of you commenting last time, but hopefully we're going to be bringing in the Kiwis. I want to bring the Kiwis my way because I want to see how they are particularly feeling compared to us in North America. The variety of data points is always great. And great news, I also got this other graph to load today. So we can look at a little bit more data about how much power those areas experienced. And ironically, at a point in time yesterday, New Zealand had more activity than Saudi Arabia, which is to note a difference in what the usual theme is that I've noticed on this graph. You can see other areas also hit over 100. GCIO2 is, oh, that's Saudi Arabia. What am I thinking about? 06. What's 06? South Africa. Okay, so there was some new various activity going on. So there's activity coming in and showing up in different areas of the planet. So that's also very interesting. So there you go. Yesterday was an interesting day energetically. Today we have some new readings coming in, some interesting ones with those lines. And we're just going to keep rolling with the weather report. I'm having a little bit of an issue with, how do I get this to go away? When I film on Zoom, there's a little bar across the top and it's blocking my, what the heck? Here we go. Now it goes away. I know you can't see this. I thought you could, but you can't see this, but I'm just talking to myself. Please forgive me. We're in the process of making this a very cohesive weather report. I'm working on it. So I'm trying. Okay, so we're going to talk about the solar wind. Today is the 20th. This is when they predicted the solar wind was going to start increasing, and it has, in fact, started going over 400. So that's good news. Entering the solar wind stream. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Okay, so the solar wind is coming in. They also reported a very interesting phenomenon, which I'm just going to note really quick. is that there was some extremely bright shocks of bright aurora yesterday in Sweden, because you know Swedish get all the cool, they get all the lights. And there was some sort of magnetic anomaly that caused this to happen. It says, because it shouldn't have been, like the solar wind shouldn't have been there yet. But I don't know about that. Anyways, this is the story we're being given. My instruments recorded a double magnetic shock wave. With each pulse of magnetism, electric currents flowed through the ground outside our observatory, and bright auroras appeared overhead. These signatures are normally associated with CMEs. So, you know, this is interesting too, because it's like, did a CME actually happen and they're not telling us about it, or what? Because again, with all of this data out here, it sort of gets a little fishy. You know, you can always fudge numbers. Science is extremely famous for that. Infamous. But yeah, there's some more data on here to explain it. I didn't really even understand. They said counter-interaction region, co-rotating interaction region. CIRs are transitional zones between slow and fast-moving regions of solar wind, often traveling ahead of solar wind streams. They contain shock light density gradients and enhanced magnetic fields that can sometimes mimic the effect of more powerful CMEs. So this was sort of the activity that was leading the way of all of this solar wind, but the fact that it was so potent is very interesting. So I have a feeling that this solar wind coming in right now is some extra good, some good stuff. We're going to be getting a lot of whatever. Some sun loving is what I like to call it sometimes. So we shall see how things have been going. If it reflects how my life is going, things are starting to become even more synchronistic and divinely led. So I would love to hear if those sort of occurrences are happening to you this weekend. And the astrology also supports this. I'm just going to talk about it now because I don't have a link to show you. But I wrote some notes down. Again, I got this information from the Leo King from his app. He doesn't post these videos publicly, but I'm just jot noting a little bit of things because it's extremely helpful, and I think he would forgive me. And I might even meet him one of these days pretty soon, so I'll ask him myself. But it says the sun, again, I mentioned yesterday, is an Aquarius, which is a detriment. It's detriment, so it's its least powerful house. And but Aquarius means friendship and people. So the sun in our solar system is basically, this time is the time for interacting with your peers, which is what's going to be happening because all of the conferences are going to be starting right away here. And I'm super excited to see some of my peers I haven't seen for a few months. Really looking forward to it. It also says that the moon is in its detriment in Pisces, and on Sunday, which is tomorrow, the moon squares Chiron, which means that there's some weird paranormal extra stuff going on, which again, I can't agree more because of this interview I'm doing. But he said it's sort of like this weekend feels like you're in a whole other world. There's a higher spiritual connection, but it's like you've just phased into a whole other place, which I'm down for because I like it here compared to what we were dealing with all the Capricorn energy, and that was just not fun. But yeah, let's move on. We can quickly talk about the geomagnetics. There isn't too much interaction. There's not yet there's not as much of a geomagnetic storm yet. Everything is looking pretty steady in that realm. The solar wind hasn't screwed it all up yet. The Global Consciousness Project dot is at a solid green. Everything's pretty normal, pretty steady. Here we go. This is the lovely new graph I've been learning about today. And again, when I was learning about this graph, I was like, it seems like there's some vital information about what this could really help us look for is not here. but it was helpful enough for me to be like, make my own theories. And I will be doing more of that. You know, it's hard when this is an intense, like, look at this thing. It's intense, and it's, I'm honestly praying that I actually know what I'm talking about right now. I tried. I have a university degree. It involved reading a lot of charts like this, but, you know, I didn't get straight A's, so we're all prone to mistake. We're just going to give myself that little extra before we talk about this, but I want to draw your attention to this blue area right here. So what the site said was blue circles mean an excess of cosmic energy. So usually coming from the sun, and the wider the dot is the magnitude of the energy coming in. So it's an excess, but it's also the magnitude is also grand. And this is on, I wrote it down. This is Eastern Standard Time right down here. So I'm currently 2 hours ahead of that. So when a CME sort of activity comes in, they talked about how there would be a higher pitch. So this is the pitch angle, and it would be red, high pitch in red, which would be a detriment, and it would be surrounded by blue. So you can see that there's these little moments where it's like a pulse. So this is a detriment, this is an increase, increase, detriment, increase, detriment. So there's a bit of a kind of pulsing coming into the reading and coming off of the sun. And so when things are at a lower pitch, they said, when it's at a small pitch and there's large red circles, it means that there's a grand loss, which means it's kind of like the vacuum before about 4 to 24 hours before there's a big push of energy. But they also said that sometimes they don't even show up on the graph. So, you know, all the info I have right now is that there was an influx of activity, clearly, and I got to make this smaller to show you a little more, during early this morning. And that coincides with the Schumann resonance as well. And also that there's a little bit of a activity going on here more recently in the day. And high pitch, I'm just reading my notes again. High pitch, red, blue, or blue, red, blue. So blue, red, blue, this is up pretty high. So it looks like that solar wind is indeed on its way. And yeah, I look forward to getting better at reading this. I hope this helped at all. If anyone has any notes or corrections for any of the things that I say on these graphs and you're like, well, she was totally wrong, please put it down in the comments or make a note, because I do not want to be misleading people with data. I do not claim to be an expert in this. I'm just doing my very best. I'm working on it. I have a little bit of an extra fun part of this report to cover. A friend of mine who lives in California. I've mentioned him before. We work on the New Earth memes group together. Jace, he said that there was another fireball in the sky in California where he's at. And we looked online and there wasn't any reports about it in mainstream media. So I couldn't give you an article, but he did find this little report for me from good old Jim, reported it. And so at least I have a little bit of data to back up that claim. Of course, I believe him, but you know, sometimes it's nice to have the visual. So that's just a little update. Remember, everybody remembers the one in Michigan, and then there was the one in Edmonton, and now there's this. So I'm sure there's more sightings and stuff that are happening that they aren't even reporting on. So if you did see a sighting, or you were in California and you saw this, again, comments below. I would love to have that data. Thank you very much. And this concludes the data portion of the weather report. I pulled a tarot reading card from the Doreen Virtue angel deck. Is that what they called it? Yep. Angel. And because, quick story time, we were at my apartment today and they started drilling holes in the ground right out front of my place. And there was a few holes dug out to, or marked out to be Doug. So we had to skedaddle over to my parents' house because, you know, neither of us could film when that was going on. So this is why we're in the new environment. And this is why I'm using this deck, which is awesome. And I honestly want to steal it from my sister, but because she never seems to use it. But no shade at my sister. I love you very much. You're the light of my life. But I'm just shouting out your deck. It's not a big deal. But this is the card I pulled for the collective today. This was the message that I was given to give you. And it is the Queen of Air. And the Queen of Air on this card means objective decision making, clearing away all that no longer serves you, and seeing the humor in the situation. So if that resonates with you, again, comments below. That would be awesome to hear. And if you would like a tarot reading from me, you can go onto my website and sign up, or you can pledge $20 on Patreon, which is the cheaper price. And I will be in contact with you. And the Patreon purchase also allows you to get it's a monthly subscription. That's how Patreon works. So every month you'll be getting a card reading. So a whole spread just to help you along with your path. It's always nice to hear what your guides have to say to really give you the confidence you need to move forward. Yeah, and this is where it is, and that's what it looks like. You can just search me up, Alexis Buck, on Patreon if you want that. And of course, alexisbuck.com is my website. Super simple, super easy to get to. That should be it. If you want to be in that Zoom call tomorrow and you want to comment, because I cannot tell you how excited I am to do this. I'm excited. I'm going to be putting the link to the call in the Facebook group, or not group, the page, and the group, I guess, but the page. So it's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be mid-afternoon, 1 p.m. my time, 12:15 Pacific, Eastern time, 3:15. That helps you, all you Europeans out there. Maybe you'll stay up late enough. I would love to have you. Anyone who wants to be part of this conversation, we are welcoming you. Whoever is guided to be a part of this will be a part of this. And I believe that very strongly. But I believe that is all I want to talk about today. I love you all very, very much. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye!